It's the early edition of Insider Trading with Pierre LeBrun. The full version of IT with Pierre, Darren, and CJ is coming up on the early edition of SportsCenter. But Pierre is working on a couple of stories we thought you should know about right now. And Pierre, there's a bit of a theme here. Two teams trying to lock up their number one goalies to long-term deals, and neither seems to be having much success. Let's start with Igor Shesterkin and the New York Rangers, Pierre.
Well, listen, I mean, there is ongoing dialogue, which is the positive here. The Rangers are trying to do everything they can to lock up arguably the best goalie in the world to a long-term deal, but it's not done yet. Here's what we can tell you. Number one, this is time sensitive. Igor Shesterkin's camp has indicated to the Rangers that they would rather not negotiate once the puck drops on the Rangers season October 9th. So there is that. The other thing is that our understanding is that Shesterkin's camp, led by agents Rick Komarov, Max Molliver, they want to reset the goalie market. You know this, Gino, but goalies have kind of come under duress in terms of their contract extensions the last few years. And, you know, Shesterkin, I think, is trying to eclipse that. And in case in point, I mean, just this past summer, UC Saros, one of the best goalies in the world, he signed an 8-year extension at $7.74 million a year. The summer before that, Connor Hellebuck, who had UFA leverage a year out, ends up signing $8.5 million a year. Not a bad deal, but I'm telling you that it is below what Shesterkin is looking to sign. And Ilya Sorokin and the New York Islanders, 8 years times $8.25 million. Igor Shesterkin is looking to blast through all three of those contracts. And I think he will. The question is he going to do it in a Rangers uniform or on the open market next July 1st? An important element to add to all this. Our understanding is that the Rangers have let Shesterkin's camp know they are willing to pay him more than the $10.5 million that Carey Price made and is still on the books, highest paid goalie right now on the books in the NHL. The Rangers are willing to go north of $10.5 million. And yet this deal is still not done. So where does that leave us? Is he looking for 11.5, 12, 13 million? The bottom line is they believe that the cap is going up, and it is, hence the percentage of the cap. And yes, even though other teams around the league are trying to minimize what they pay goalies, Igor Shesterkin's camp says not them. So we'll see where this goes.
We're ready for a new high water mark in the goaltending front. So the Rangers still have some time because Shesterkin's got a year left on his current deal. But the situation is much more critical in Boston, almost a full week into their camp, and the Bruins still don't have their number one under contract. Jeremy Swayman is a restricted free agent, but he and the Bruins seem to really be at a stalemate right now. Pierre, what's your take on this?
Well, listen, ongoing dialogue. I checked on this again on Tuesday, and I was told status quo, still not there. It gives me the sense that even despite the pressure in this situation, that the real deadline is opening night as opposed to the start of camp last week. So both sides will keep going here. But the key thing is that Swayman still very focused on getting an 8-year deal, Gino. That's still the number one priority, and the Bruins are looking at a long-term deal as well. But you can't just have this Shesterkin discussion without having the Swayman tied into it, in a sense that they are different negotiations. Swayman, in terms of the CBA, isn't at the same leverage point because he's not UFA in a year. He's RFA right now.
Right.
So Shesterkin has the higher leverage point. But, you know, I think that in Swayman, there's a bit of what I just talked about, which is that just because all these goalies are signing for whatever they signed for the last couple of years doesn't mean that a guy like Swayman can't try to push through. And I think we're seeing some of that in that negotiation with the Boston Bruins as well. So another fascinating one.
Pretty happy for the goaltenders and where they're going from here. All right, that's the early edition of Insider Trading. The full version with Pierre, Darren, and CJ is coming up on the early edition of SportsCenter.